all here. Yeah, everybody is. Okay, Lizzie. Oops. And I'm ready to remind me later. Close it out. Regular meeting. Here we go. Yeah. I'm ready.
Good evening, everybody. There's a lot of people here today. So let me start off with saying, what did the ocean say to the beach? Nothing, it just waved. Don't worry, it's going to be a long night. The wind is blowing, and if you take a Benadryl now, it should hit by the time you leave this meeting. So we'll go ahead and get this thing started. Please let the minutes reflect that we have all 5 board members present and accounted for. Thank you, everybody. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. No, there are not.
Okay. With that, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Second.
All right. Mr. Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. We should have more kids to these meetings.
Yes, every single one.
All right, Ms. Segato-Jones, are there any calls to the public this evening?
No, there are not.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to our special recognition, our Just Because Awards. Ms. Segato-Jones, if you would.
Yes, if you'll join me down there, and we'll step down and we'll do our recognitions. Good evening. Thank you for being here. I'm the proud superintendent of Glendale Elementary School District, best school district in the state of Arizona, so thank you for being here. All right, yes, we celebrate that. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, every month in Glendale Elementary School District, we do a Just Because. We have the pleasure of having a foundation called Gusta who sponsors this event. What we do every month, we randomly select one student, one employee out of a random computer-generated list, and we go out and surprise them just because. We just want to say thank you for being a student in Glendale Elementary School District, and thank you for choosing Glendale Elementary School District for your place of employment. So that's what we're going to celebrate tonight. I want to begin with our employee, and our employee this year is, or for this month, is Maria Alvarez, and she is the Jack School Dual Language Program teacher. So Maria, if you'll come up. Thank you. Whoa. Good catch. Thank you for everything you do for our students and choosing Glendale Elementary School District. Did she get your yard sign? You forgot? No, she needs her sign. Yeah. Oh, she forgot her. You're welcome. Thank you. Chocolate. Just because. Here's your yard sign. Maria, I know where you live, so I expect this to be up by about 9 o'clock tonight. I'll honk about 3 times. All right? Okay. Thank you so much, Maria. What you have is, so the audience, because some of us are new for the first time, you have a Just Because. It's in a mosaic because we believe part of our vision is a mosaic of minds here in Glendale Elementary School District. So this is Just Because. You're shaking. Eat chocolate when you sit down. Okay, it'll be okay. We have chocolate from Soretta's, our business partnership. Soretta's Chocolate Factory. It has the Glendale logo. And then also we call this Mosaic Taffy, and that's for you. And then crayons, and crayons are really good for calming. So, okay, that will work. Mario, we appreciate everything you do and the work you do with your students. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Can I have Jack School come on up so we can do pictures? Anybody from Jack? Come on. Jack. Yeah. You can go up front. All right, there we go. Thank you. Next, we have our student, and our student is Layla Lopez, and she is here. Layla, come on up, please. She's an 8th grade student at Desert Spirit. So proud of you. So proud of you. Thank you, Layla, for being a student here in Glendale Elementary, in particular Desert Spirit. Family, come on. I told you we embarrass everybody, so come on up. Come on up. Have no shame. Come on up. Layla, why don't you get your goodies? I promised you there would be candy. Chocolate, just because. Layla, unfortunately, I do know where you live too, so that's one of the perks I get. I'll honk about 9:30. Okay, you up still at 9:30? Great. Hi. Oh, we need to give chocolate. Oh, there we go. And mosaics. We got everybody? All right, let's get over and get a picture. Are we going to have, Grandma, you going to come up? Come on, Nana. Oh, Desert Spirit. Come on, who else? Come on, little ones. Come on. Come on, it's a family affair. Come on. There we go. All right, there we go. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Sandy. Thank you, Layla. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. All right. We're good. Oh, well, you better just stay down here. We're doing poetry. Yeah. So. So next on the agenda, we're going to move to our poetry contest winners that are here with us this evening. I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Ms. Haraye.
Good evening, Board President, Board members, and Superintendent Sagata Jones, and all of our families that are here this evening and visitors. The young American poet Amanda Gorman said of poetry, "Poetry is the language of reconciliation. It reminds us of our best selves and common values. There is a specific power in poetry to sanctify, purify, and rectify even amidst discord. Poetry is the language of the people. We need your voices. We need your stories. So don't be afraid to pick up a pen." We have here our wonderful students who were not afraid to pick up a pen and join our poetry contest for this year. So we're very excited to have them here and their families. I would like to invite up our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Sienna Shively, and our Gifted Achievement Advisor, Megan McCabe, to present the awards.
Yeah, just have to push it. Is it on? No. Do you want me to use it? You want to use it on here? Okay. Press it until it's green. Hey. Hey.
Good evening, everyone. Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Sagata Jones, and executive team. Every year, the students of GESD have the opportunity to tell their story, share their deepest thoughts and imaginations by participating in the annual poetry contest. This year, we had 125 students participate, which included students from all grade levels. This evening, we have the opportunity to celebrate their achievements. Please join me in congratulating this year's winners. The students will stand as their name is announced and walk up to our board members to receive their awards. Awardees are receiving a certificate and medal. The first place winner for each grade level will have the opportunity to read their poem if they choose. So let's get started. So for kindergarten, our third place winner is Mia Cisneros. Our second place winner is Matthew Quintero. And then our first place winner is Olivia Hawkins. Yep, you're gonna hold it if you want to.
My poem?
Yep, read your poem.
O, often I'm happy. L, love to play outside. I want to have fun. V, very helpful in the kitchen. I like to play with my friends. A, animals are my favorite.
Thank you, Olivia. So moving into our first grade winners, we have in third place, Ava Hemingway. Our second place winner was not able to be here. That is Delilah Ruiz from Desert Spirit. And then our first place winner for first grade is Mateo Esquer.
Hello, my name is Mateo Esquer from William C. Jack. The title of my poem is Food. I love food. It puts me in a happy mood. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I am a lucky winner. I like my shake with my birthday cake. Burgers, tacos, donuts are all delicious to me. They are nutritious. Food is yummy to my tummy.
Thank you, Mateo. Okay, for second grade, our third place winner is Lucy O'Boyle. Our second place winner is Dante Villegas. And then our first place winner for second grade is Giselle Rascone. Come on, Giselle.
My Nana by Giselle.
Okay, are you ready?
My Nana was kind. She was so lovely. She was the best that I could wish for. She gave me a red bracelet before she left us. I never gave up on her. I loved her with all my heart. She told me I was beautiful. She never stopped loving me. She had everything she could wish for. She loved me with all her heart and never gave up on me. She always laughed with me. Whenever I went to her house, she always said that I was a princess.
Thank you, Giselle. Okay, for third grade, our third place winner is Seven Lamar Wesley. Our second place winner is Chloe Pham. And then our first place winner could not be here with us, and that was Jacoby Groves from Challenger. Okay, moving on to fourth grade. Our third place for fourth grade was Jacqueline Santiago Vasquez. Our second place winner is Giselle Garcia. And our fourth grade first place winner is Matthew Taw.
The sun has risen. The sun has risen. A new day has started. We will have great wealth, but it will be stolen. We will have great power over them, but so will they. We will threaten them, but they will be greater than us. We may be weak, we may lose, and may the sun go down, but we are one island, and we can do it together.
Thank you, Matthew. For fifth grade, our third place winner is Ana Martinez. Our second place winner is Yanaya Simmons. And our first place winner for fifth grade is Kali Salinas. Kaylee C.
When darkness is all in sight, a voice can be heard at night. Try not to tempt the fate. This world is filled with fate. Lies have been told. Silver is worse than gold. Not knowing who to trust, bone becomes dust. Thinking like a swan, I was used as a pawn. When opening my eyes, I cannot see that I was living a life of lies.
Thank you, Kaylee. For sixth grade. All right. Third place could not be here. That was Zoe Werner from Horizon. Our second place winner is Jimena Alvarez Mejia. And then our first place winner for sixth grade is Lily Ragnoli.
Dreams. I'm normal before I go to sleep, good grades, normal days, but when I nap, I change like that, drops of purple rain. Dreams are sweet, adventurous, skipping and jumping on jellyfish, swimming through clouds, riding on tigers, dancing on dangerous eyes like a spider. But when I wake up, it's no longer cool. Goodbye dreams, hello school. Next thing you know, I fall back asleep. This time I'm diving headfirst into ice cream.
Thank you, Lily. For our seventh grade winners, come on down. We have in third place, Julia Michaels. In second place, we have Luz Jimenez. And in first place for seventh grade, we have Kaylee White.
This is 10 things I miss about you. I miss the way you do my hair. I miss the way we'd walk. I miss it when you tell me jokes. I'd miss it when we talk. I miss the way we'd go shopping and try on brand new clothes. I miss the way we'd paint each other's fingernails and toes. I miss the way you'd say goodnight and hug me before bed. I miss it when you'd wipe my tears and kiss me on my head. I also miss your pretty voice. It's ringing in my ears. Just knowing that you're not around is making me spill tears. But most of all, I miss the way you'd say I love you so, because that's the only thing I need. I cannot let you go. I hope you know I love you and I miss you very much. I hope you know I think of you even though we cannot touch. I hope you know I think of you. You're always on my mind. I love you near. I love you far. I love you all the time.
Thank you, Kaylee. And then our eighth graders, our final group. Yay, so exciting. Come on down. Okay, So for 8th grade third place, we have Rowan Wagner. In second place, we have Zena Salah. And then in first place for 8th grade, we have Safira Belair.
You show your callous abnegation as you construe who I am. You continue to discombobulate my gender for a mental illness, ready to call this part of me preposterous, idiotic even. However, you seem to forget that this is only a part of me, of my identity. You abhor the idea of me being aberrational, the idea of me living a life I want that isn't like someone else's. With alacrity, you acquiesce that I'm too young to understand myself. You even postulate that I'm trying to be like others and do what they do all the time. To that I say, this is only a part of me, of my identity. As I ask for judgment on the clothes I should wear for school, you eradicate the jovial atmosphere with that of boiling water. As Father walks in the room, I can see the perfidiousness of you telling him my secret, the one I thought you wouldn't tell. I stomp into my room and shut the door as I start to equiver, reminding myself once again that this is only a part of me, of my identity. Burning rage ignites my insides, leaving me with unwanted adrenaline that eats away at my life. My fists start to curve downward as I hit the ground in anguish, hoping to suppress the emotion that pulls my strings like a puppet. As I start to calm, there are still the remnants of the savage ferocity mixed with a heavy emptiness that consumes the air around me. Sitting on the floor against a metal frame with a tear-soaked face, I mumble, this is only a part of me, of my identity. You cannot refrain me from wearing my pride, from wearing the clothes that have outed an important part of my identity. I lift my head up high as I walk and reminisce of parts in my past that have led me up to this point in my life, to the point of me finally realizing that my gender is only a part of me, of my identity.
Good job, Safira. Thank you. This concludes the presentation of our awards for our poetry contest. Thank you, board. Students, at this time, you may go back to join your family. Families, you are... Yeah. Oh.
Is it cold? Yeah. Okay, my amazing students, we couldn't be more proud of you. Be yourself, be you. So proud of you. So proud of you. Families, thank you for being here. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but I know you probably have dinner to eat and homework to do. But thank you so much for coming out. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your commitment to your students. Thank you so much.
My seat is cold. It's like an igloo in here. There they go.
Well, this is the groom's side, and this is the bride's side. Or this is the bride's side, and that's the groom's side. That's how my wedding looked like. Anyway. Nobody was there for me. Okay, first of all, no. All right, you guys ready? You good to go? All right, everyone, welcome back. It's a lot quieter in here now. It's a lot more empty, so feel free to stretch out. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda, the consent agenda. Are there any items that any members would like to have pulled for discussion? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, Mr. Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Moving on to our reports and information items, our benchmark 3 assessments. Ms. Sagata Jones?
Yes, President Martinez, members of the board, at this time I'll turn it over to Ms. Norma Hadigi.
Good evening, Board President, board members, Superintendent Sagata Jones, and community members. I am here to present to you all our third quarter benchmark results. So here they are. Third quarter benchmark was done in March, so this is kind of a summary of the data. We're going to start with these reports that show us kind of how the students have done over the year. Obviously, we have a lot of needs. We're not seeing as many changes in the data as we would like to see, so I know you've gotten to look at this report, and so I would like to share with you also how many students were in that red range in minimally proficient that were close to partially proficient and that were in partially proficient that were close to the proficient, because that's kind of where we're putting our focus from March till now and into AASA. So I'll start with third grade. This is our third grade data, ELA and math. In ELA, we had 35 students, and in math, we had 25 students that were very close. Excuse me, I'm sorry, let me start over. We had 41 students and 64 students that were in the red but are very close, like just one question away from getting to that next level. We also had in ELA and math 30 students in ELA and 38 students in math that were close to that proficient mark in that yellow mark, but just, again, just a question away. And so I thought it would be good perspective to look at it in this way. In fourth grade, this is our fourth grade data, we had 27 students in ELA and 50 students in math that were close to that partially proficient mark. And in ELA, we had 30 students, and in math, 38 students that were close to that proficient mark. Moving to fifth grade, I wanted to share that 46 students were in ELA were close to that partially proficient, 47 students in math. When you look at ELA, we had 30 students in ELA and 25 in math that were close to that proficient mark, close to being green. All right, here is sixth grade. We had about 50 students in ELA and 28 students in math that were close to partially proficient. Again, just one question away. And we had about 49 students and 21 in ELA and 21 students in math that were close to that proficient mark. In seventh grade, we had 61 students in ELA and 41 students in math that were close to that partially proficient mark. And in close to the proficient mark, we had 50 students in ELA and about 40 students in math. In ELA, in eighth grade, we had 32 students in ELA and 32 students in math that were close to that partially proficient mark. And for close to proficient, we had 33 students in ELA and 31 students in math. The reason that is important is we're always looking to see how we can get kids over that hump of just being able to get one more standard proficient and just kind of moving along as they're growing throughout the year. So that's something we've been looking at. The next charts that you'll see are the way all of our schools have scored. So we're going to run through those. We have third grade ELA, third grade math, fourth grade ELA, fourth grade math. Here we have fifth grade ELA, fifth grade math. Math is a big need for us, so we're definitely looking at a lot of things with math that we need to do. Here's sixth grade ELA, sixth grade math. Here is our seventh grade ELA, our seventh grade math. Here is our eighth grade ELA and our eighth grade math. So we do know we have lots of work to do, and at the end I'll share a little bit of the things that we're doing already now and what we will be doing coming up. We want to also look at our diverse populations. This is data for our English language learners on standards. We also know that we work with our English language learners on the development of language. And so this is how they are performing, what percent of students throughout the quarter and throughout the year, and in benchmark 3 were proficient. So you can see the percentages there. In some cases, they're kind of staying where they are. In some cases, they're doing a little bit better. And sometimes, depending on the content, we lose a few students. Here we have our special education population. And we know we are working with all of our teachers and all of our students for differentiation. Here are our gifted benchmark results. So it shows in number and in percent where our students are based on their areas of giftedness, the nonverbal, the quantitative, and the verbal students. Here is math. Writing. We are constantly working on writing. I know lots of our schools took on some writing professional development this year. We wanted to show you just kind of how we've done over the years. You know, we had a little bit of a dip during the COVID years, but we're seeing some increases in writing in this school year. So here you have third grade writing benchmark. Here you have fourth grade writing benchmark. And in writing, they have to read 2 passages and synthesize the information to answer the prompt. So it's a lot of work that students have to be able to do as they're working through that. Here is our 5th grade writing benchmark data, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. Our next data points are rolling assessments. So this is where we have put a lot of effort because we know that kids coming into K-1-2 right now, some of them had some gaps because of COVID. So we were really trying to, we have our acceleration specialists and our grade level teams that all work together to provide support to the students in various areas. You'll see that our data point for 2022-23 is where students are right now. And if it's in other years, that was our end data. So you can see that we are really, our teachers and our acceleration specialists and our principals are doing great work with our early literacy skills. There's a lot of gains, and we're hoping to have much better percentages by the end of the school year. Because we accelerate, we don't put take our foot off the accelerator during this time of the year. From now until the end of the year, a lot of gains can be made. And so we're working with our students here. You'll see our literacy kindergarten data here. Sight words is still one that we are working on. I know I mentioned that last time. Here we have our math kindergarten data. Here we have first grade reading. First grade math. Here's second grade reading. And second grade math. These are all one-on-one assessments, as you know. Now we're going to move on to quarterly formative assessments. So quarterly formative assessments are given to first and second grade. They're standards-based because we focus so much on phonics and discrete skills. We also want to know where are they on the RI and RL standards and the math standards, the overall standards. So we give a quarterly formative assessment. This was our data from the fall and the winter on how students were doing on that assessment. That's given through Galileo. This is ELA, and this is math. I'm sorry, did I say that wrong? This is ELA, quarterly formative assessment, grade 2, and this one was grade 1. Sorry about that. This one is our math quarterly formative assessment that we gave to grade 1. We do that in the winter. And this is our second grade math quarterly formative assessment. So we assess them in different ways. So we know that the data is not where we want it to be. We've been working on this all year and in years past. Here's what we are doing now. From March to now, you'll see the top is what we're working on right now. We are targeting essential standards with our teachers. Our principals have worked on this. We're using an all-hands-on-deck approach to our triage to make sure that students are getting additional skills. We do passports to AASA so that the students go into the test feeling good about the assessment. And we do a 10 to 15-day challenge right before the assessment just to reiterate some skills right before they take that. And we are in the midst of AASA right now. Kids are currently taking, I think they've taken science, writing. Next week, a lot of our schools are moving into math and reading. So they're in the process of taking that assessment. But up until now, we were spiraling standards, looking at fourth quarter proficiency maps and determining what needed to be readdressed, and providing feedback through data. So that's really important. What are we going to do after that? Well, we're not done. We have to get ready for next year. So we do strategic focus with our acceleration specialists on the vitamin approach. We don't stop that work. We need to make sure all of our kids are ready for the next grade level. And we continue the support with transition planning with our grade level teams, where they look at standards that they're going to focus on now, getting them ready for the next grade level. So we definitely don't stop that. So we do a level up plan. And this year we did something unique. We met with our administrators a few weeks ago, and each administrator is doing a level up plan for themselves on all of the strategies and supports that we provide to see what do they need to get better at so that they can better support their teachers and students in their academic growth. That is the presentation. I'll take any questions that you guys have.
Thank you, Mrs. Heidegge. Are there any questions from the board?
Yes. I just want to preface this by saying that I know our educators and our admins are doing their best, and you guys are amazing, and I appreciate the heavy lifting and work that you've put into this. Have we surveyed or communicated with educators as to where the gaps are? And I saw that there's teacher feedback systems, and we use data. Do teachers feel that data and feedback system is efficient? And if not, what are we doing to make sure that we are addressing their needs so that we are supporting them, and in turn we're giving students a more supported educator?
I think that's a great question, and one of the things that drives this data is really our pacing guides for the year, because the pacing guides tell us what we're going to teach, maybe possibly how much time to spend on certain standards. So every year, and actually we did it a little differently this year, where every quarter the teachers were able to provide feedback on our pacing guide, because that literally drives how this data comes out, because that's what's being taught in every quarter, and we want to make sure that we're addressing the right standards. I think that's one piece where we get feedback from our teachers. We also do have an assessment committee. So the assessment is built by teachers. And so they, we start we get the kind of bank of items from our assessment instrument, which is ATI Galileo. And then we have a committee of teachers that works on it with research and evaluation to look at every item to make sure, yes, this is what we would be working on, what we would be assessing, what we need to look at. And also, after the assessment, teachers can look at the assessment, so we leave it open for 2 weeks so that they can work with their students and look at the data discrepancies and say, gosh, why didn't the kids do well on this standard? Let's look at those items. What did they look like? What do we need to do differently in order to address the needs better? So I think there's constantly a flow of feedback, and we always get emails if a teacher felt like maybe an item was a little off or whatever. We usually can address that, and we look at it and we study the item. So there's a constant flow of feedback and moving back and forth. In reference to maybe how the students are doing, we use collaborative teams. So every week, collaborative teams look at data, because this assessment is just one point in the year where they take a test, and it's at the end of the quarter. But our teachers create their own assessments with Galileo, ATI, or other tools. Every week, they provide an assessment, they create those assessments, and so they are constantly giving each other feedback like, wow, you did really well on that assessment with your kids. I didn't do as well. What did you do differently instructionally? So that's the time when really they provide that feedback, and our administrators work diligently with our collaborative teams to make sure they're working through that process and providing each other feedback on instruction more timely, because the common formative assessment is given right when they were taught that standard. This is given, it might be I taught something at the beginning of a quarter, and now I'm taking that test at the end of the quarter. So, we understand there's a little bit of stress on that on the student part. I hope that answered your question, but I do think that we're always willing to take additional feedback, and I feel like we have a culture where teachers feel that they can provide that feedback at different levels. But obviously, I hope I answered your question, Board Member Jaramillo.
Thank you. That was a great answer.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm sure you guys did deeper digs when you saw the results, and I don't think I've ever seen minimally proficient in the 70s, 80s, and even 90%, whether it was ELA or math, and across all grades. So what have you guys identified as maybe going on or not going on that maybe we need to be aware of at the board?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we did do that, definitely. And one of the things that we're paying attention to is, we believe that it's about alignment. So whenever we see data that doesn't reflect where we think maybe we should be, we always go back to our pacing guides, because I think it's really about what are we asking students to master. So we're kind of taking a guess at AASA, because AASA did not provide us feedback on the back end on every standard. If they did that, we could really understand better where our students aren't doing well. They provide us feedback by domain, but that's multiple standards. So it's hard for us. So we kind of look at the domains and say, okay, how did they do on that overall domain? We do the same thing when we get our results back. The great thing about our results is it is by standard. So we are looking at revamping some of our pacing guides. I know I just met with Cindy about that, in looking at revamping part of our ELA pacing guides and our math to really look at what are those priority skills that kids really need. That's what we need to focus on. And so we need to narrow that scope so that kids really gain some of those standards that are most important, and that we focus and help our teachers to focus on the right standards. So it might just be, and we've been trying to work on this for several years. One other kind of interesting factor is that we are still using ATI Galileo, and sometimes when you use the same assessment tool for a long time, it loses its luster a little bit. They haven't updated some of their items, and we're always trying to grab some different items or ask them to build items. So we're kind of also looking at the challenges with our actual assessment tool as well. But we know that the best way to address these needs are to look at what standards are students mastering? So what are the strengths that students have? And then looking at what the needs are to build on that. The other thing that I have to give kudos to Research and Eval on is they're really doing a lot of study right now, and I just met with them yesterday, and my director of curriculum and instruction, in looking at what standards will be in the next grade level that in this grade level, let's say fourth grade, are stepping stones to being successful on those standards. So we are preparing a document right now that we're going to provide our principals in order to do a better job with our level up plans and transition planning, so that our teachers understand that a little better. And after looking at that, we realized that we definitely need to revamp some of our pacing guides. So it's just really digging into those standards and understanding them better, and understanding what they need in this grade level that will help them in the next grade level. And it's just always something that we're studying, every year. And I just know how hard our teachers and principals are working, and that they're really dedicating time, smart time, to looking at data with common formative assessments. And I know that when you go out to the campuses right before ASA, they're pulling small groups. Principals are pulling small groups. Everyone, it's an all hands on deck approach right now. We even have people from the district office pulling small groups. So we really are doing everything that we can to help our students, and we would love to see higher proficiency, but we definitely are studying the problem every chance we get.
And then the other thing that I loved is seeing, because when you look at education, you also have to look at it as when you're building a house, and you've got to have a strong foundation at the beginning, and that's where our kinder and our first and second grade are at. So getting those skill sets solidified, I'm excited to see changes as we move forward for those kids as they age up.
I agree. Thank you.
All right, great questions. Any other questions from the board?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Heidegge. Moving on in our agenda for funding opportunities, Ms. Sagata Jones.
President Martinez, members of the board, this time I'll turn it over to Mr. Barragan.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have Bill Davis here who's going to walk you through a little bit about some funding opportunities as they would relate to the November election. Once he gives his presentation, I'm going to try to hopefully put that in perspective on paper and what that means when you approve a budget. Mr. Davis will be handing out hard copies of the presentation for your review.
Oh, you're just going to skip me like that?
Thanks, Bill.
Nay.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Sagata Jones. Again, my name is Bill Davis with the firm of Piper Sandler, and we serve as the district's financial advisor for bond-related financings. I'm going to take just a few minutes to kind of walk through this presentation to, I know you're considering the possibility of calling, bond and potentially override district additional assistance elections, and this presentation attempts to kind of summarize some of the details behind that, what's required, what, if approved, what the dollars can be used for. So there's really, school districts under Arizona statute have really three options for additional funding over and above the basic funding level. You've got the M&O override, which is for operations, and I know you know a lot of this stuff, so we're going to kind of jump through it. And please just stop me, too, if you have some questions along the way, because I'd like to make this as conversational as we can. You've got the district additional assistance, and then you've got the GO bonds. And I know you're all familiar with those, but in each case, statutes require school districts to go to the voters and ask for approval. With the M&O and the district additional assistance, they have certain lives, basically 7 years, and with bonds, if approved, you have up to 10 years to issue that debt. And we're going to talk in more detail about that. The purposes, kind of generally this, lays out some of the detail, but general obligation bonds, if you think about it, are more for capital or long-term asset purposes. Cannot be used, proceeds from bonds cannot be used for district working capital. And that's where it falls into the M&O, which is for district operations, programs, that type of thing. And the district additional assistance is mostly for capital related to, but for technology, pupil transportation, and the like. The district currently has 6 bond issues outstanding. As of today, the outstanding principal is just over $49 million. After this coming July 1, 2023, and that July 1 principal payment, the outstanding principal will be down to $46.6 million. Now we get into some of the bond-related discussions. Again, under statute, districts are limited by a percentage of your assessed value. In the case of elementary school districts, it's 10% of your limited property value. So, today, if you look at the bottom, there's a constitutional debt limit, but in the late 90s that was changed, and we're living now under the statutory debt limitation. So you can see our calculation right now, and this would be post July 1, 2023, the district would have statutory capacity to issue an additional $41 million. And again, remember, this number changes each year as you pay principal down and as your assessed value changes, which, typically, but not always, that assessed value goes up. This schedule, Mike and I have been working on for a few weeks, but it basically is an illustration of your current bond debt service, and that would be the columns, in the first yellow, under bonds outstanding on the left half side of the page. So we show, obviously, the fiscal year starting in 2023, your projected limited net assessed valuation. So we're starting with your current valuation, and then we're projecting based on your 10-year average for 5 years and then 20% of that thereafter. So it's a pretty conservative estimate of future valuations to try to come up with what is the principal and interest of this debt costing district taxpayers. So what is the property tax rate going to be? So we kind of lay out your existing debt, and then we took an example of a $40 million authorization. If you decide to move forward and the voters approve that, what would that look like if we issue those bonds and kind of layer it into your existing debt? This example illustrates you have the ability to issue debt out to 20 years from the date that you sell the bonds. This is shorter than that. This is really depicting a 16-year payout, which, there's advantages and disadvantages. The shorter your debt, the less your interest expense, which is huge because, you want to use that principal for physical capital projects, school buildings, basically, and every interest dollar kind of is a requirement of the taxpayer, and so you want to kind of minimize that, but you have to do it within, realistic parameters for the tax rate and what obligation is that going to put on taxpayers. So what we tried to do here, if you look at the two columns on the far right, is layer that, if you will, new authorization example into your existing debt, come up with an aggregate debt service, and then what would that resulting secondary property tax rate look like? And again, this is just an example. We're estimating very conservatively for interest rates at 5%. You'd be under 4% today. But again, we're anticipating potentially out in 2024, right? So we don't, we're potentially 12 months away. So we're trying to be on the conservative side here. And you can see that potentially that tax rate would go up to the mid $1.50 range, $1.55. And then kind of taper off after, 10 to 12 years or 10 years, so that if the district, at that point in time in the future would need additional bonds, it gives you the flexibility to do that. So we could shorten it up a little bit more, in the tail end, but, you've got that flexibility, and those discussions would go on at, if and when, you decide to call an election and if and when it's passed. So just it's an example for illustrative purposes. Try to get everybody thinking about what the impact would be, if you will. So, for now, we're kind of moving from bonds. We're going to talk a little bit about M&O, and I'll get through this pretty quickly. And then we'll talk a little bit about the district additional assistance. So again, as you know, the voter authorization is basically to increase the M&O budget. You can go up to 15% of the revenue control limit. You don't have to go to the full 15. You can go up to that, but not over that. I think, there's a few details here. The assessed value for 2023, the purposes of the M&O override for the first year. With the M&O, unlike the district additional assistance, if it's approved by the voters, it's at that percentage of the RCL for 5 years, and then it steps down 30% each year in years 6 and 7, unless it's renewed. Again, you can pay for day-to-day expenses, as I mentioned, up to 15% in the 7 years. It's a very, very common tool for districts to increase their budget spending, obviously. And here's an example of what that would cost the district in terms of dollars. So, it's close to 15%. And the estimated annual, tax rate and the impact that would have on a home with a value of just over $100,000. So it's about $280,000 to $280 per year for that additional budget capacity, if you will, or budget limit. Are there any questions? I don't know if I'm going too fast or working through this, but if we jump then to the district additional assistance, again, voter authorization is required, as I mentioned. These dollars can be used for unrestricted capital outlay, so they could work in tandem with your bond dollars or separately and independent of those bond dollars, but primarily for capital. Again, it's a function and a percentage of your revenue control limit is what statute limits your ability to go over and above your current budget limits. You know, as you move forward in your consideration of calling the election, you know, we'll be working very closely with staff and presenting to the board and working with Jim and bond counsel at Gus Rosenfeld to kind of identify and complete the information that's required to be included in the voter information pamphlet. Pretty detailed and, you know, pretty specific requirements that statutes require for those pamphlets. And here, again, is an estimate on what the costs would be if the district additional assistance were approved at these dollar values, the estimated tax rate impact with your current assessed value, and what that estimated annual tax impact for a home of $107,000, valued at $107,000 would be. So anywhere from $170 to just under $180 per year. Now again, remember too that taxpayers in the district, it includes the homeowner. You know, we've just reflected homeowners, but you know, you just kind of have to visualize of your total assessed value. It's many different property classifications, which include commercial, industrial, and single-family homes. So everybody pays their share based on the assessed valuation of that particular property. And statutes require that we reflect a lot of that in the pamphlet. So we would be showing in a pamphlet, you know, the impact on a commercial building or an agriculture or industrial building. So, and I guess that's it. Be happy to answer any questions, and I'll turn it over to Mike because he can talk a little bit about, I think, how this might impact the budget going forward.
Mr. Davis, thank you for that. Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Sagata-Jones, the question is, why would we want to do this, or why is this needed? You know, and it really goes to address several issues. Perhaps the more recent one is the decompression. In order to make the approval that you gave for 1 year sustainable, there are some strategies that we're going to need or additional revenues to support those ongoing expenses. In addition to that, the maintenance and operation override that was approved by voters in 2018, if it's not renewed, will start to decrease. So what we did, again, how does this relate to what you do when we present the budget? I'm hoping that we can draw that direct connection. You should have some legal-sized documents, which is page 7 and 8 of the expenditure budget. On the left-hand side, you should have what's currently the revised number 1. And you'll see that on the top right corner, you'll see version, it says revised number 1. On the right-hand side on your paper copy, you should have page 7 and 8. It's kind of a mock draft scenario. On the top right corner, it's called projected. Do you guys see that there? And so what we really wanted to do to help you understand what that presentation means as far as numbers, on the left-hand side, you'll see there's a column A and a column B on the revised number 1. On the projected sheet, there's a column A and a column B. If you were to call, and again, this is a very simplified projection. It basically says, hey, if this were 2025 with our current number of students, this is what it would look like. As you will note, enrollment's going to decrease, so these numbers will fluctuate. But again, we want you to understand the concept of what's being presented today and what will be asked of you next month. If voters were to approve the DAA override, or what we sometimes call the capita override, on that projected legal document, you're going to see on line, I believe, 3B in green, $6,777,653. That would be additional revenue that the district now has, which then means on line 2C, it goes from where it currently has $4,974,916. We would move that into M&O because, again, we received an additional revenue that will help support our capital needs. It also means that on line 1, that $57,658,639 is an increase of about $1,102,737. And the reason for that is because we are generating $6 million in the DAA. So it allows us to kind of fluctuate some of those dollars will fluctuate, but also moving them around so that we can get closer to addressing that decompression. So far, so good. And tell me if it doesn't make sense. Tell me if I've lost you. Okay. You're talking about over $6 million in additional revenue. There are other things that the district will have to do to meet that decompression amount on an ongoing basis. Now, we're talking about 2 or 3 things here tonight. There are about 8 other things that we will have to do to make that sustainable. But I just wanted to highlight what that means when you approve a revised budget every year and the changes that that would mean if this were implemented today, how differently it would look. And in the end, if you just look at line 12 on the bottom, there's $70.2 million, which is the current budget, to the 76.3 almost. Again, there's still work to be done because we haven't hit that dollar figure that it takes to sustain the decompression study. The biggest challenge that we have is the continual decrease in enrollment. As we've talked about in the past, from 2013, 2014 till this year, we've lost over 4,000 kids. From this year through the next 3 years, you're looking at over 1,200 students that we will not have. It's pretty significant. The question that we'll have to be very mindful in having on an ongoing basis is, will we have to downsize? And that's a question that we'll have to answer in the next year or so, because that is the biggest unknown. What will the enrollment decrease to? I believe this year's loss is about 5%, which is greater than what we even projected in the demographic study. Mr. President, members of the board, I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you may have as we try to bring a level of understanding that will help you make a decision next month when we bring a recommendation.
Are there any questions from the board? All right. Thank you, Mr. Bader.
The last thing I just want to point out, if the M&O is not renewed, that $9 million, no matter which document you're looking at, decreases by about $3 million. And then in that subsequent year would decrease by another $3 million. So you'll see that's a significant decrease in revenue if it's not extended by the voters. Mr. President, members of the board, thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on our agenda, moving to our action items, our meet and confer recommendations.
Yes, President Martinez, I will hand it over to Ms. Valadez.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Superintendent Sagata Jones. I would like to bring up to the podium Elizabeth Seifter and Andrea Ariano, and they're going to do our presentation this evening. I also first just want to start by thanking members of the Meet and Confer team. So we had Don Denault, Elizabeth Seifter, Jackie Kemsley, Jessica Peck, Stephanie Hopelman, Andrea Ariano, Norma Harigi, Santina Carrillo, Shannon Gleave, and then Michaela Bubak was our note taker. As you know, this was our first year facilitating ourselves, and we had a big discussion if we could handle it, can we do it on our own, and we had full confidence in each other that we could pull it off, and we had our norms, we took turns facilitating, we had some difficult discussions of how we were going to hold each other accountable, or when we kind of went off the path, we had to have some difficult conversations about what we're all here for, what we're here to do, but we agree we did a fantastic job facilitating ourselves. We didn't have our facilitator to put our documents together. Elizabeth put our PowerPoint together, so we really just all came together to make it happen as a group. So extremely proud of our entire group. We also made sure we went this year and spoke with the departments and lots of different employee groups to listen to their feedback and see what we could do with that, where it fits into our categories, along with the survey that was given. I also, and they're going to introduce some things here, but I want to just let you know, and I barely just ran over to Elizabeth before the meeting and told her, because thanks to David Jordan, he puts our survey out. Our Adriana helped put together the presentation, and we had a QR code this year. So last year, just for your information, we had, it gets shown to everybody, and then it's to get voted on, and then the recommendations come before you all for the vote. So last year we had 490 staff members vote on our recommendations. 83% of them were yeses last year, and 16% said no to the recommendations. The recommendations did pass from you all. This year we had 678 people vote, with 96% in favor of the recommendations and 4% saying they were not in favor. And we also had a comment section, and then we will all take a look at those comments, and talk about them, see what needs to be done, what's changes and things like that, and then move forward. And we have our monthly meetings as soon as we get back started. They're always super excited to just kind of how are we doing with our recommendations, what are next steps, and what we need to do with that. So I just wanted to share the results of our vote before I turn it over to our presenters.
Ms. Valadez, if I may, could you please have the other members of your team stand if they're here to recognize them?
Yes, there's some of them are here.
There's some of them here. Thank
Shannon, Santina. Yes, so a huge thank you. And thank you, Superintendent Sagata Jones. We meet once a month starting in, I think I give August, or maybe I've had everybody meet in August. Starting in August, we meet once a month, and then pretty much as soon as we come back from winter break, we meet every Wednesday, January through March. Parent-teacher conference week, we skip from 4:30 to 6:30. Yeah, 4:30 to 6:30. So it's a lot of time that everybody puts into meeting for meet and confer, and a lot of time separate from that going out to meet with the departments. So again, very proud of the group. All right, I'm going to turn it over to you two. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ms. Valadez. That was the best introduction. We were nervous what to say, but you handled it. So good evening, President Martinez, Governing Board, and Superintendent Sagata Jones. I'm Elizabeth Seifter, the President of the Glendale Education Association.
Good evening, President Martinez, Governing Board members, Superintendent Sagata Jones. I'm Andrea Ariano. I'm also a member of the committee and also a director here in Glendale. Debbie said everything. We don't know what else to say other than we worked diligently. We worked as a team to decide on these recommendations. And as Debbie shared, or Ms. Valadez shared, we had an excellent turnout rate. Everybody had the opportunity last Wednesday, several days to vote yes or no on the recommendations. So here's our video.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Seifter, and I'm the President of the Glendale Education Association.
Hello, my name is Andrea Ariano, and I'm the Director for Social Emotional Learning and Mental Health Services.
We're here today to go over the 2023 Meet and Confer recommendations for the Glendale Elementary School District.
Members of the Meet and Confer Committee include myself, Andrea Ariano, Michaela Bubach, Santina Garillo, Dawn Denault, Shannon Gleave, Stephanie Hopelman, Norma Howdigi, Jackie Kemsley, Jessica Peck, Elizabeth Seifter, and Debbie Valadez.
To start with our agreements, we have agreed to increase teacher for teacher pay to align with increased subpay, $125.
If funds are available, continue the class size stipend for classes over the standard per semester, $500. If possible, increase to $750. Keep performance pay for the 2023-2024 school year, 0 to 4 years, $3,750, 5 to 9 years, $5,000, 10 plus years, $6,250. Reconvene the stipend committee to discuss receiving multiple stipends for certified staff.
Continuing with the agreements, create a committee to review the sick leave buyback policy, investigate a related art supply standard and budget, offer a menu of professional development for all classified employee groups, lessen the consecutive day requirement for classified staff to receive higher pay for filling in for other higher positions, and provide subplan templates for teachers to utilize.
Finally, we have agreed to allow for EA planning time when pulling small groups. One Wednesday of quarter will be set aside for PLC work time. This is in addition to the quarterly grading day. Have a set amount of required after-school events to attend per semester or quarter, and provide an updated Google Drive folder of behavioral lessons organized and labeled by topic. An additional list of items brought to our attention has been given to administration and departments.
Based on the feedback from the Meet and Confer survey and department meetings, some items are already in process and to be implemented, which include district is creating a framework for site safety committees, provide clear communication of the protocol for direct threats to campuses, provide training for health checks about administering over-the-counter medication, provide training to all staff focused on building positive classroom culture, which will include universal expectations and restorative practices, allow related arts and administration the flexibility of providing electives, and last but not least, continue and refine training for secretaries. All right, we're almost done. We're at the most important part. Your voice matters. Please vote. Please scan the QR code to vote now. Voting will need to be completed by Tuesday, April 11th at 5 p.m.
If you have any questions or concerns, there will be space on the voting survey link for you to provide those questions and comments to the Meet and Confer team.
That's a wrap. Thank you for your time.
We value and appreciate your voice.
Did you know?
Are there any questions from the board for the coolest morning show that we've had in a long time?
No, but I just have to say this is probably one of the most successful meet and confers that since I've been here. So kudos to all of you for coming together, and looks like a great plan, and glad to see so many have voted. Did you have the QR code last year? So do you think that helped? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks to Shannon for bringing that suggestion. So
Excellent. Well, good job, everybody.
Thank you.
I think, if I may, I'm sorry, Board Member Hadamio. I think also, too, I commend you both for the commitment you have to this. And as Board Member Wilson said, with the great turnout of voting, I get QR codes and all that. But also, I do believe a lot of that is done to the work that you've done through doing your committee work. Being able to get in front of employees, that always hasn't been the process, but having those conversations, and when you say your voice matters and your voice is heard, it does when you're out meeting with all the different employee groups. So thank you for that approach. Thank you for taking on facilitating yourselves. I think you did a remarkable job, and thank you.
Any questions?
I want to comment as well, same as Board Member Wilson. This was phenomenal. I mean, 94%, that's darn near perfect. Hats off to everybody, and I know that everybody's worked really hard, and this has been a long time coming, so congratulations to everyone.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the Meet and Confer recommendations?
I'll make a motion to adopt the meet and confer recommendations presented.
And I'll second.
All right, Mr. Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Moving on to the other fun stuff, the financial compliance audit for fiscal year ended June 30, 2022. Ms. Segata-Jones?
Yes, President Martinez, member of the board. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bodigan, and he will do the introductions.
We do not have a video. We're going to use PowerPoint.
You have a QR code?
We don't have that either. I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Finance, Valerie Cadavel, and she'll introduce our auditor and the auditing firm.
All right. Well, good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Segata-Jones. Tonight, we're going to be presenting the results of our fiscal year 22 financial compliance audit. And with me tonight, I have Mr. Dennis Maschke. He is an MBA, a CPA, and a partner at our audit firm, CWDL. Do I have... Okay, so during the 2021 legislative session, Arizona revised statute was amended, and now it requires that the school district governing board publicly accept all audits and compliance questionnaires by roll call vote. And we also are required to submit our annual audit reports to both ADE and the county superintendent's office. The audit timeline. It is pretty much a year-round. There are different things that we have to do throughout the year. We're going to be gearing up to go into our fiscal 23 audit in May, but this audit timeline is from last May. We started. A team of 4 auditors from CWDL came in. They work with our staff on site for a week. We provide a lot of documentation, coordinate with all the departments, all the sites, and we provide that documentation, and they start the evaluation. As we wrap up the fiscal year in October, we're finalizing all of our reports, journal entries, and we give our final reports to the auditors. They come back in November on site and go over some more documentation, finish up, and then during December, we are submitting all of our audit results to the different state, federal, and award agencies. So I'll let Dennis go up.
All right, good evening, President Martinez, school board members, Superintendent Segata-Jones. As we do the audit, we come out in those 2 or 3 visits, but really we put together 4 different documents. And I like to say we do, 3 different audits in once. We have the financial statement audit where we're looking at your balance sheet, your income statement, and that's when we compile the annual comprehensive financial report. If you've looked at it, it's an almost 200-page document, so there's a lot that goes into it. It's in 3 sections. The first is the introductory section, where we give a high overview of the major changes that are affecting the school district. It gets into the financial section. The first part of the financial section is the audit opinion, and we gave a clean, unmodified opinion for the fiscal year 22 financial statements. The opinion is followed by your financial statement, statement of net position, and the fund level financial statements. Just before that is the MD&A, and that's where I would like to guide people if you look at the document. It gives a high-level overview of the changes and the activity from one year to the next, so you can kind of see what's been changing over one year to the next. There's the footnotes to the financial statements, which goes into detail about some of the material balances, and it ends with the statistical section, which are various tables of 10-year historical and trend data for the district. And that's another good thing to look at, just to see the certain trends in property taxes, financial information, student data, and a wide variety of other information. The second part or second audit that we do is called the single audit report that we put together. This is where we test your federal programs. And this year we had to test 2 federal programs, one being the Child Nutrition Cluster, as well as the ESSER funding. And we tested about 67% of all federal awards this year because those programs are so large. Every 3 years, any program that you have that's significant, so around $1 million, we have to test at least once every 3 years. So we typically have a rotation where we're testing that nutrition cluster every 3 years. And then obviously ESSER is a new grant, pretty significant. We had no material weaknesses or significant deficiency findings during the audit. And there were none last year as well. So we're continuing to see good results when we're doing the various audit steps.
So the USFR requires that we go through our compliance questionnaire. It is basically our finance test of what all the work that we do throughout the year, and it includes all those different areas in that last bullet point. We're looking at budgeting, cash, inventory, capital assets, and the list goes on. So here's our report card for fiscal year 22. There are the different categories that we're graded on, and a low score is what we're looking for. And we had, out of 167 total questions, we had 159 with yes and 8 with no. And the big areas that you can see with a lot of questions that come with it are, of course, cash and revenues, and our procurement have the largest number of questions. So we scored a 96. Anything to add?
Okay, my competitiveness, I got to know, what did we miss on the governing board of management procedures?
I knew that one would come up.
Mr. President, members of the board, you know, we took a bet who was going to ask that question. No, it's a very good question. I think, as Ms. Cadavell pointed out, you know, it's a very comprehensive audit. It's very thorough. One of the questions that it was a fundraiser for a particular school that occurred without having prior board approval, and so that was not at finding. And you know, what we try to do in those situations is always making sure that everything goes before the board before they have a fundraiser. And you know, at the end of the day, I would say the biggest takeaway is that there were no material weaknesses. And at the end of the day, you're talking about 96%, what I would call a pass rate, to oversimplify some of this out of possible 100. So if 94 was good, I think 96 is 2 percentage points higher. But this is something that, you know, obviously what we take, we really work with the departments in the areas that we might have fallen short. Obviously, 167 questions, those are test questions. They're looking at many documents. I can just tell you, just to perhaps give you a visual, when they go into HR and ask for employee files, they're in a cart and the stack is about this high. And so they're looking at those. And so it's a very thorough process. And so if you look at last year, I believe we had 9. This year we had 8, or for 22. And that's a very important to note is, are we decreasing those audit findings, or are we having more? And if you have more, the question becomes, well, what's the why? Did you lose key personnel in those areas? You know, those are things that we should be asking ourselves as a board, and then as staff, as we look at these results.
So with the conclusion of the audit, we do have all the reporting that is due by March 31st. We got everything submitted. Our comprehensive annual financial report was issued to ASBO International and GFOA by the deadlines. I'll just jump to the next one, because we do have a competitive superintendent, and we do always want to submit for the awards, and we did receive both awards for our 21 audit, and we're hoping for the same for 22. Anything you want to add?
I would just say, I just want to thank, you know, Valerie and her team and all the departments that are involved, because it definitely is a team effort. And, you know, Courtney Pena is no longer with us. She was really kind of the liaison in doing this while she was here. You know, she's gone to another district. to grow in her professional career, but we couldn't have done that without her. And I do want to acknowledge her, even though she's not here, value her leadership and all the various departments, because it is a group effort, and that's how we like to operate as a team, and so these are the results of that.
Are there any questions?
I commend you all for the work that you've done, because I've seen how exhaustive some of these questions are. Because every once in a while at my job, I get some compliance questionnaire questions dropped in my lap, and my answer is just copy and paste whatever I did last time and put it in there. It's exhaustive, and it's tiring, and it's a lot of work, and it seems to go on forever. And just like taxes, when you think you're done, you have to start doing them again. So congratulations to you and your team and everybody. And I know Courtney is out here, out in Buckeye. Thank you very much for everything you've done. And yes, absolutely. They deserve a round. All right. If there are no other questions, is there a motion to accept the financial compliance audit for fiscal year 2022?
I'll make a motion to accept the financial and compliance audit for the fiscal year 2022.
And I'll second.
All right. Mr. Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I, Mr. Martinez, vote aye, as requested by Mr. Bedican. Thank you. All right. Now something on a little lighter side. The board meeting calendar for the upcoming year. Ms. Sagata Jones?
Yes. Ms. President Martinez, it's recommended the governing board approve the meeting calendar for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
I do have a question. The first date on July 13th, there may be a couple of us traveling. I don't know if we can reschedule that or...
It's timelines. Mr. Berrigan.
Mr. President, members of the board, we had a lot of conversation around this particular date. The reason for that, for not being able to move it, is really because of the 10-day requirement from the proposed budget to the adopted, and publicizing that in the newspaper. We will need at least one board member to be available so that we could have a quorum on that day. So we respectfully request one of you be available so that we can continue to do the district's business. So.
I'll be here, right? I'll be here.
You'll be there. You'll be there. And then...
I'll be out of town.
And you'll be out of town.
But I can do telephonic.
But you're going to do virtual telephonic. Okay. We're good.
We'll make it work.
The others are traveling with a different time zone. So.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other things that pop up? Are we good?
Just a reminder, because Mr. Jaramillo, this your first year, we start at 4 in the summertime to...
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I work at a school, so I'll be free. But November 16th, is that able to be moved around? November 16, 2023.
Yeah, as we get closer to that, we can look at those dates that can be moved. It will depend on what is coming, what is being brought forth then at that time. But yeah, okay. And we typically do, Board Member Jaramillo, make adjustments as we get into the year. Yes.
Thank you. There's always something weird that comes up, it seems. Mm-hmm. Fix it when we get there. All right. Is there a motion to adopt the board meeting calendar for next fiscal year?
I'll make a motion to adopt the governing board calendar for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
All right. Mr. Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. All right, moving on to future meetings and agenda item requests. Ms. Sagata Jones.
Yes, President Martinez, members of the board, you have those in front of you. The one between the 15th, obviously, is we're meeting this Saturday for the study session, and then the remainder of the meetings are there for you.
Are there any other items that board member would like to see appear on a future meeting at this time?
Yes. Two. I was looking at the board docs, and I saw that there was a review policy related to student and staff protections for LGBTQ, and there's no information as to when the date placed was on that agenda. And I wanted to bring that up because as we see across the country and the state that there's attacks against students and adults that are from the LGBTQ community. So I'd like to see that on a future upcoming agenda item. And I saw it was requested by Ms. Pimentel. And then from the safety committee, or not the safety committee, the meet and confer, I saw that there is the issue of safety on campus. And, this has been a contentious issue, especially as violent events have increased throughout the country. And if we are creating district-wide policy as to how to deal with direct threats, I believe it's important that, we do receive public input, much like other districts have done. A committee created by the board is something I think parents and community members would like to see in order to have their voices heard when it comes to the safety of their children and their students. So that's something I'd like to see as well.
And we can have discussions about that, some of the items too. If it needs to be into a study session, we're happy to do that as well.
Okay. Yeah. So we can review the policies, the existing policies that we have on those at some point. And then we'll like a lot of policies, they just need to be reviewed from time to time. So we'll find a place where we can fit those items in. All right. Are there any other items? All right, moving on to the superintendent report. Ms. Sagata-Jones.
Yes, President Martinez, members of the board, just quickly, I'd like to recognize the artwork in the back from Bicentennial South and GSA. I really like what GSA has done. Is Brock here today? I think I shouted that out earlier. It's great. It's great work that both sites at South and GSA, I really like seeing that. Just congratulations to all the poetry winners and the students and the teachers that work hard with their students every day on that poetry. It was incredible tonight. District Art Show was last night. That's always fun to engage with the community and the students. And thank you to Ed Services and all the art teachers and students for that. Softball season is here. Look forward to those games. And I like getting out there and seeing the community, passing out sunflower seeds and just watching some good fast pitch with girls anyway, and then the lob pitch with the boys. It's been great. Business partner events I want to announce is April 26th. Will we invite all of our business partners to come in and celebrate them and recognize them for our partnerships? And that will be here April 26th. And at that time, Gusto, our foundation, will unveil the new game that we have. So we're excited about that. Other than that, thank you for the work again for Meet and Confer, Ms. Valdez, and your leadership. And our Meet and Confer team, you did a remarkable job. Thank you, Ms. Hadagi. Benchmarks, incredible report that you gave, and always I know how diligently you and your staff and teachers are working through this professional learning communities framework and making the best decisions for students. So thank you. Mr. Berrigan and your team, thank you so much for the work that you do in the audits and keeping us in compliance and all those things. So with that, thank you for everyone for being here. Couldn't be more proud of this district.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the governing board report. Mr. Jaramillo, do you have any current events or updates to give us?
Sure. I just, want to thank Meet and Confer, Elizabeth and Andrea for the amazing presentation and the work that you put in. And I also want to commend all of the students who showed up and delivered their hearts to us. Some of those pieces were really moving, some were funny. And I just enjoyed it, listening to all of it and jumping up and down with that one young lady. But that's all I have to say for now.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wilson.
Well, congratulations to all the poetry winners and to all those that submitted their poetry. And, keep at it. It's just such a wonderful thing to hear. I mean, you could just tell the grade levels, from the youngest to what is really on their minds to the older ones. But it's always so nice to hear those poems. I attended the art show yesterday, and as always, it's such a great success. Thank you to all the art teachers. You did such a great job. Art is just such a great avenue for kids to come in and just calm down and, reflect, and it's just, mentally a great thing for them. I just want to encourage all our schools to really, keep those art programs going. They're so important, and to our kids, just such a great event. And then just always, thank you to everything that you do for our kids, and that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Pimentel.
I just want to say our kids are talented. We, in the last week, have gone to the band concert, our poetry students, our art students, and thank you to everybody who just really puts that out there and encourages our students for their artistic abilities. I have nothing artistic about me at all, but I can really appreciate what I see with our students, and they're putting their heart and soul out there with their music, with their poetry, with their art, and I just thank you for everyone who encourages that with our students. Congratulations to the Meet and Confer team. I am completely and 100% impressed. You all work together, and the collaboration shows, so congratulations. And at the art show yesterday, Baker We came and brought cupcakes. And board member Bartels and I had our own little contest. And I think that there was no loser because the cupcakes were amazing. So we watched some of our students, and I think there was that much more frosting than there was cupcake, but they ate it and they enjoyed it. So thank you to Baker We, and thank you, everybody, for your dedication to our kids and our community. It shows, and we appreciate everything you do.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bartels.
All right, ditto. But just to reiterate, our students are so talented. I mean, the art pieces last night, they're so creative and put the effort in, and you can see that. The band performance that we attended, also, again, a wonderful, it's definitely not your elementary school performance, that is for sure. And I know this is a busy time of year, but this is also the time of year where we celebrate so much of our students and our staff. So, hang in there. We're almost to the finish line for this year, and then it'll be just turn around and start prepping for next year. Thank you.
All right. 6 more weeks. 6 more weeks. That's all I can say. First of all, thank you to all the kids and all the parents who brought their kids to the poetry thing. I think most everybody was here. And I want to recognize those kids that had the opportunity to read their poem and actually came up and read the poem. Most of you have probably at some point in your life had to step in front of that microphone for the first time, and it is terrifying. And they all got up there, and they all read their poem. I think there was only one that didn't, and I don't know whether I think that person wasn't here. Yeah, so other than that, congratulations to all those kids. Parents, you did a great job. Meet and Confer. Thank you very much. You are a model of self-governance. I hope when we have our study session on Saturday, we can do half as well as you guys did. And there's only like 5 of us. So we'll work to meet the high standards that you've kind of set for us. And thank you again to the finance team for all the audit. Thank you for all of our guests who got to come and speak to us this evening. We appreciate you and the knowledge and the support that you give our district. And last, I'd like to thank all of our board members and our superintendent and our board, Elizabeth over there. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain moment right now. I'd like to thank everybody that was up here. We got back from NSBA just a week and a half ago, 2 weeks. I don't know, it seems like forever ago. Amazing conference. I loved being able to hang out with you guys and walk and kind of talk and meet with other board members and meet with other school districts who have sometimes wildly different challenges than we do and sometimes the exact same challenges we do, just sometimes with snow. So it was great to meet everybody and hang out and kind of get to know each other a little bit better. Thank you. I appreciate everything that you guys did. And with that, At this time, the governing board will consider voting to recess the regular meeting in order to convene to executive session for the following purpose, in accordance with ARS 38-431003, A3 for discussion or consultation with the district's legal counsel regarding the sale, lease, purchase, or exchange of real property by the district. Is there a motion to convene executive session?
I'll make a motion to convene into executive session.
Second.
Mr. Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Aye. We are now in executive session. Thank you.
Leadership, there is no action after executive session. You've had a long day. You are dismissed. You're welcome to stay, but you are dismissed. Thank you.
I know. Let's not let him go. Here you go. I gotta turn it back in. All right. I'm gonna leave my phone here. I'm eating leftovers. I guess I could put my. Well, no, we'll have at least two. Yeah, we'll have at least two.
Oh, I should have called for like a 5-minute recess.
Oh, we have time to do that. You taking your purse? All right, I'll take mine.
If nobody's here, we can just do the vote to adjourn.
I motion to reconvene.
All right, we're back. Is there a motion to reconvene to public session?
I'll move to reconvene public session.
Second.
Almost second. Mr. Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Bartels, how do you vote?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. We are now back in public session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.